My name is Amanda, and I'm 32 years old. I've been married to David for 5 years now. He's 36, an accountant with a steady job at a firm downtown. David's the kind of guy who doesn't make waves. Dependable, quiet, always there. He's not the type to sweep you off your feet with grand gestures, but he's the one who remembers to pick up milk on his way home or fixes the leaky faucet before I even notice it's dripping. He brings me coffee in bed on weekends, sets out my slippers when it's cold, and never forgets our anniversary. On paper, he's perfect. We live in a small house just outside the city, a cozy 2-bedroom with a little garden I keep meaning to tend to but never do. From the outside, you'd think we're happy, and for a while I guess we were. But lately I've been feeling restless. I'm not sure when it started, maybe a year ago, maybe longer. It's like there's this itch I can't scratch, this nagging sense that something's missing. I'm the outgoing one. Always have been. I love a good party, a loud laugh, the buzz of being around people. David's the opposite. He'd rather stay home with a book or watch some documentary about World War II than hit up a bar. I used to drag him along to things, and he'd go, smiling that quiet smile of his, but I could tell he wasn't into it. I don't know why it started bugging me so much. Maybe it's because I turned 32 and started thinking about how my 20s were this whirlwind of excitement. Late nights, new faces, no responsibilities. Back then I was free, untethered. Now I'm married, settled, and sometimes I catch myself wondering if this is it. I never said it out loud, though. David didn't deserve that. He's good to me, always has been. But those thoughts, they were there, simmering under the surface, waiting for a spark to set them off. It happened at Lisa's place. She's one of my oldest friends, the kind who throws casual get-togethers that somehow turn into full-blown parties. It was a Saturday night, nothing special, just a game night with a few friends, some wine, and a stack of board games no one ever finishes. David wasn't thrilled about going, but I'd convinced him. "It'll be fun," I said, and he shrugged, grabbing his jacket like he always does when I win him over. The night started fine. We were all piled into Lisa's living room. Me, David, Lisa, her boyfriend Mark, and a couple others I knew from back in the day. The wine was flowing, and I'd had a few glasses, enough to feel that warm, loose buzz. David was next to me on the couch, sipping a beer, mostly listening while I chatted away. That's how we worked. I talked, he nodded. It was our rhythm. Then Mark brought up exes. I don't even remember how it started. Something about his college girlfriend being a psycho, I think. Everyone laughed, swapping stories, and I was right there with them, riding the high of the conversation. "Oh, I've got you all beat," I said, grinning. "My ex, Jake, he was bigger in every way?" I laughed as I said it, tossing it out like a punchline, expecting everyone to crack up with me. The room went dead silent. I felt it before I saw it, the shift, the air sucked out of the space. Lisa's eyes widened, Mark coughed into his drink, and the others just stared. I turned to David, still chuckling, ready to nudge him and say, "Right?" But he wasn't smiling. His face was red, his jaw tight, and he was looking at me like I just slapped him. Before I could say anything, he stood up, set his beer on the coffee table, and walked out of the room. For a second, I didn't move. My laugh hung in the air, awkward and fading. What? I said, glancing around. It was a joke. No one met my eyes. Lisa muttered something about checking on the snacks and bolted to the kitchen. Mark started fiddling with his phone. The others just sat there, pretending to study the Scrabble board like it was the most fascinating thing in the world. I should have gone after David right then. I know that now, but I didn't. I stayed put, heat creeping up my neck, telling myself it wasn't a big deal. He'd get over it. It was just a dumb comment, a throwaway line. So I poured another glass of wine and tried to keep the night going, even though the vibe was shot. David didn't come back inside. When I finally went looking for him, maybe 20 minutes later, I found him on Lisa's porch steps, hands in his pockets, staring at the ground. The air was chilly, and his breath fogged up in little clouds. I sat down next to him, wrapping my arms around myself. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice light. "You okay?" He didn't look at me. "Was it a joke?" he asked, so quiet I almost didn't hear him. "Of course it was," I said, nudging him with my shoulder. "Come on, you know me. I say stupid stuff all the time." He didn't laugh, didn't even crack a smile. He just sat there, and the silence stretched out until it felt like a wall between us. "David, seriously," I pressed. "I'm sorry, okay? It didn't mean anything." He nodded, but it was the kind of nod that said he was done talking, not that he believed me. We went home not long after that. He drove, I stared out the window, and neither of us said a word. The next day, he was different. Not angry, not yelling, just gone. He got up, made coffee like usual, but he didn't bring me a cup. He went to work without saying goodbye. When he came home, he answered my questions, short, clipped responses like fine or yeah, and then he'd retreat to the living room with his laptop. No, how was your day? No sitting next to me on the couch. It was like he'd built a shell around himself, and I couldn't get in. I kept waiting for him to snap out of it, to call me out or start a fight something, but he didn't. He just withdrew, and every day that distance grew a little wider. By day 3, I was annoyed. I mean, come on, it was one comment. I'd apologized, hadn't I? Sure, it was dumb, but was it really worth this? So I texted him while he was at work. "Hey, can we move past this? It was a joke. I'm sorry. Don't be so sensitive." He didn't reply. Not that day, not that night. When he got home, he glanced at his phone, saw my message, and set it face down on the counter without a word. I stared at him, incredulous. "David, really? You're ignoring me now?" "I'm not ignoring you," he said, voice flat. "I just need some time." "Time for what?" I snapped. "It's been days. I said I was sorry. What else do you want?" He looked at me then, and there was something in his eyes, hurt, yes, but also exhaustion, like he was tired of carrying something heavy. "I don't know, Amanda," he said. "I just need to think." "About what?" I pressed, but he shook his head and walked away. I didn't get it. He was blowing this way out of proportion. Jake was ancient history, tall, loud, charming, sure, but a total jerk. I picked David over him for a reason. Didn't that count for something? So I decided to let it go. He'd come around eventually. He always did. Except he didn't. Days turned into a week, and he stayed distant, polite but cold, like a roommate instead of a husband. I tried acting normal, chattering about my day or suggesting we watch a movie, but he'd just nod and go back to whatever he was doing. It was maddening. After a week, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to fix this. So I went all out, cooked his favorite lasagna, lit some candles, even put on that dress he always said he liked. When he walked in, I smiled big and said, "Surprise! I thought we could have a nice night." He paused in the doorway, looking at the table, then at me. "Thanks," he said, but his tone was off, grateful but guarded. He sat down, ate, complimented the food, but it felt forced, like he was going through the motions. "David," I said, reaching for his hand across the table, "I hate this. I miss us. Can we please just talk?" He pulled his hand back, slow but deliberate. "I appreciate the effort, Amanda," he said, "but I'm not ready to talk yet." "Not ready," I echoed, my voice rising. "It's been over a week. What do you need? A written apology?" He sighed, rubbing his temple. "I need space. That's all I can say right now." Space. That word hit me like a punch. I stood up, shoving my chair back. "Fine, take your space. I'm done begging." I stormed off to the bedroom, slamming the door, expecting him to follow to apologize, to fix it. But he didn't. I heard the TV click on instead. The next day I tried again, left a note on the counter. "I love you. Let's work this out." No response. I texted him a selfie with a flirty caption. Nothing. I even suggested a weekend trip, something spontaneous like he used to say I loved too much. He just said, maybe later, and went back to his laptop. It wasn't working. Nothing was. And the more he pulled away, the more desperate I felt, like I was losing something I didn't even know I'd had until it was slipping through my fingers. My friends didn't help. I called Lisa a few days after the lasagna disaster, needing to vent. "He's being ridiculous," I said. It was one stupid comment. There was a long pause on her end. "Amanda," she said finally, "it wasn't just a comment. You humiliated him in front of everyone." "Humiliated," I scoffed. "It was a joke. He's overreacting." "Maybe," she said, but her tone was doubtful. "But you've been kind of hard on him lately. We've all noticed. He's a good guy, you know." I hung up, feeling worse. Hard on him? What did that even mean? I thought back. Had I been complaining about him more? Rolling my eyes when he talked about work? Maybe. But wasn't that normal in a marriage? Then my sister Kelly weighed in. She's never been one to sugarcoat things. "You screwed up, Mandy," she said over coffee. "David's the best thing you've ever had, and you basically told him he's second-rate. I'd leave too." "He didn't leave," I shot back. "He's just sulking." She raised an eyebrow. "For now, keep pushing him and see what happens." Even Mark, Lisa's boyfriend, stopped texting me back after I asked him to talk to David for me. It was like everyone was picking sides, and they weren't picking mine. I started avoiding our usual hangouts, tired of the sideways glances and whispered conversations. I was alone, more than I'd ever been, and it was starting to sink in that maybe this wasn't just David's fault. It came to a head 3 weeks after the party. I'd had enough of the silent treatment, so I cornered him in the kitchen one night. "David, we need to talk, now." He set down his coffee mug, leaning against the counter. "Okay," he said, calm but firm. "Let's talk." I took a deep breath. "I'm sorry about what I said. It was stupid. I was drunk. It didn't mean anything. Can we please just move on?" He looked at me for a long moment, his eyes steady. "It's not just what you said, Amanda," he started, voice low. "It's what it means. You don't respect me. You don't appreciate me. I've spent 5 years trying to be enough for you, working hard, being there, loving you, and it's never enough." "That's not true," I said, my throat tightening. "I do love you. I do appreciate you." "Do you?" he asked, and there was no anger there, just sadness. "Because it doesn't feel like it. It feels like you're always comparing me to someone else, waiting for something better to come along. I can't live like that. I deserve more." I opened my mouth to argue, but the words wouldn't come. He was right. I'd been comparing him to Jake, not out loud, not always, but in my head. Jake, who was loud and thrilling and a total mess. David, who was steady and safe and everything I'd said I wanted, until I didn't. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'll change, I swear." He shook his head. "I don't think you can, and even if you could, I'm not sure I'd believe it. I need to go." "Go where?" I asked, panic rising. "I'm moving out," he said simply. "I've been staying late at work, figuring things out. I found a place. I'll pack tonight." "No," I said, grabbing his arm. "David, please. We can fix this." He gently pulled away. "I don't think we can. Not this time." That night, I watched him pack a suitcase, methodical, quiet, like he'd already checked out months ago. He left the next morning, and when I called after him, he didn't turn around. It's been 2 months now, and he's gone. Really gone. I keep texting him. "I miss you. Can we talk?" But I can't even get a text back. The house feels like a tomb, all echoes and empty spaces. His side of the bed is still made. His coffee mug sits unused in the cupboard. I tried sleeping on his pillow once just to feel close to him, but it didn't smell like him anymore. I saw him last week by accident. I was driving past the gym of all places, because David never worked out when we were together, and there he was walking out with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. He looked good, leaner, stronger, like he'd been taking care of himself. And then I saw her, a woman with short brown hair and a warm smile, laughing at something he said. They got into his car together, and I sat there, frozen, watching them drive off. That's when it hit me. I'd lost him. Not just for now, but for good. He was moving on, finding happiness while I was stuck here, drowning in what-ifs. I thought about all the times he'd been there, bringing me soup when I was sick, listening to me ramble about work, holding me when I cried. I'd taken it all for granted, chasing some stupid thrill I didn't even need. Jake wasn't better. He was chaos, a train wreck I'd romanticized because I was bored. David was real, solid, loving, mine, and I'd thrown him away with one careless, cruel sentence. I'm alone now. The house is too big, too quiet. I tried dating, a couple of awkward coffee meetups, but no one compares to David. My friends have drifted away, tired of my whining, and my family just shakes their heads. Kelly says I'll get over it, but I don't know if I will. I saw David again yesterday on Instagram. He posted a picture of himself at the beach, smiling, that woman tagged beside him. He looked happy, lighter, freer. I stared at it until my eyes burned, then deleted the app. I can't keep doing this to myself. I don't know what's next. Maybe I'll sell the house, move somewhere new, start over. But for now I'm here, sitting in the wreckage of what I broke. I said my ex was bigger in every way, and it cost me everything. David's gone and I can't even get a text back. All I've got left is regret. And the lesson I learned too late, what I had was enough. Until I made it nothing.